Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Monday Shots. I'm your host, Khyati, and as always, we are here to bring you fresh insights and engaging conversation from the world of shipping. Today, I'm truly honored to welcome a distinguished guest, Mr. Punit Oza. Mr. Oza is the current president and fellow of the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, UK, a name synonymous with leadership and expertise in maritime industry. With over 3 decades of experience in dry bulk shipping, he has held many senior management positions in some of the most reputed global shipping companies. He also served as the executive director of the Shipping Chamber of Maritime Arbitration for 2 years, where he spearheaded transformation and positive changes, seamlessly blending in his legal and commercial acumen. Currently, Mr. Oja runs Maritime NXT Singapore, a forward looking platform dedicated to driving the next in the maritime through training, teaching, mentoring, consulting, and collaboration in the fields of commercial shipping and digital transformation. Academically, he holds a master's in shipping, trade, and finance, as well as law degree and a postgraduate diploma in maritime law from the University of London. Well, with such an inspiring and interesting journey and wealth of experience, I can't wait to dive into today's conversation. So let's begin our Monday Shots with Mr. Puneet Oja. Hello, sir. Welcome to Monday Shots. It's a pleasure to have you on board today.
Thank you so much, Khyati. Thanks so much for the introduction. Just a small correction there. The body that I actually was the executive director was Singapore Chamber of Maritime Arbitration.
Oh,
So just wanted to reconfirm that's a Singapore-based maritime arbitration specialist association, which has obviously grown leaps and bounds over the last few years, and I'm sure it'll grow even more. But thank you so much for that introduction. It's really a pleasure to be on this Monday Shots. Especially to follow the footsteps of my elder brother Amit, who has also been recently at this very podcast. So it's good to be out here with both the brothers being able to come on a show like this. So well done so far, yeah.
thank you so much, sir. And without any further ado, let me just quickly jump onto our discussion. So, Mr. Oja, you have had such an incredible journey spanning over 3 decades in the maritime industry. But I would love to take our listeners back to the very beginning, from where it all began. So, can you share with us how your journey in shipping started in your own words?
So everybody has a story of why they get into the shipping industry. Honestly, it's not an industry which people, kids don't grow up thinking that I'm going to become a shipbroker or a commercial shipping person. It's not something it's a very hidden industry in some ways, but it's very much in your face in some ways as well. So in my case, I had finished my graduation from Mumbai, from Sydenham College, and I was going to London to join my parents. My father was posted there in the Indian High Commission. Amit had already gone there, and I was about finishing that degree. And our uncle is in shipping. Mr. Mukesh Oza is the president of Samsara Group, part of the Sharaf Group. And Mukesh Kaka told me that, why don't you look at shipping as an industry? So obviously, I was not aware of what the industry was. So I went and met one of his family friends or our family friends, Mr. Suresh Parekh in Parekh Marine in Mumbai. I still remember that conversation. He says, "You want to join shipping? You understand it's a 24/7 job." And I was like, "Okay, maybe it's very hard work, but no job can be 24/7." But I realized to my surprise and to a challenge of some of my family members that it is a 24/7 job, which obviously brought me into the industry. Thereafter, when I went to London, I pursued the Institute of Chartered Shipbroker qualifications because I think they are a very, very good starting point, entry level understanding of the industry. I would still say theoretical, but it actually ties in very important foundation to what you build on. Amit, my elder brother, also eventually plunged and did it ICS with me at the same time. So both of us pursued ICS in London. And then eventually I moved on to other jobs in Asia. I went to Bangkok. I worked in precious shipping for a few years, and then decided that I want to actually go further in the industry. So academically, I want to get into a kind of a master's level qualification. That's why I went back to London, did my MSc in shipping, trade, and finance. And thereafter, continued to work in Asia. I was back in Dubai with Amit for a year. Then I was in Singapore with a shipbroker, with Noble in Hong Kong. back in Precious for a while, and then eventually 2006 I came to Singapore. And that journey, in I would say, has come to a very different complexion because of Singapore and its growth. I mean, I would say my own career has been mirroring the growth of maritime Singapore, because 2006 Singapore was still coming up as a maritime center. Today it has been the leading maritime center for 12 years in a row. So I have kind of grown with maritime Singapore, very much, I would say, grateful to that opportunity. And that would be my shipping journey, basically by chance landing in the industry, but more importantly by fate landing in the best maritime center in the world, and progressing with a lot of goodwill and support from so many people. Yeah.
It's always great, sir, to know the backstories of all my guests, and same today. I mean, it's very inspiring also. And I am not a shipping person. I'm not technically sound with shipping things, but now that I have spent around 3 years in this company, so now things I'm pretty much familiar with many things. So it feels great that yes, shipping is such a wonderful industry to work with. Great.
Absolutely.
So looking back, what would you say were some of the key milestones or turning points in your career that shaped your professional journey and leadership style?
So I would like to look at this not from a milestone or turning point perspective, but who have been the people who have shaped my journey. Because I genuinely feel that what's most identifiable in a person's journey are the people who have shaped that journey. And that also has a clear sense of thankfulness and gratefulness. Of course, we're all thankful to God all the time, but these people have literally been the medium through which that journey has progressed and reached the position that it has reached today. So if I look back, I would probably, as I said, starting with my first job in precious shipping, I had what I would call universities of shipping. Mr. Khalid Hashim, Mr. Munir Hashim, both brothers who basically kind of took me under the wing, especially Munir, and he really basically got me to go through the basics. Normally, when today's trend is that when you come and join a company, within 6 months, the young employee is saying, "Oh, I want to get into commercial. I want to get into commercial. I'm not going to come in operations. I don't want to continue in operations. It's enough, but I want to do commercial and chartering and things like that." They told me that you have to be in operations for the first few years, and it turned out to be the all 4 years that I worked before I went back to do my masters in London. All 4 years were operations, and I am actually so thankful that they actually pushed me and got me that foundation, because now I understand the operational nitty gritty of the business so well, that I have not forgotten any of those things. The other thing that they actually taught me was that when you make mistakes, you tend to kind of hide a lot of them under the carpet. In some cases, you're scared or you're unsure about how this will actually pan out. They were the first people who raised up their hands and said, mistakes will happen. You come to us, we will sort it out for you because we have relationships and we can try and solve it. But you make the second mistake of the same sort, then you have a hell raining on you. And that mental memory has stayed with me. You wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning and ask me a particular Chadapadi clause, which they explained to me, 30 years ago. I probably remember that. So for me, milestones are basically people at the end of the day. Went back to do my master's. Professor Gramenos, who's the head of the Department of Shipping, Trade and Finance in business school. At that time, it was City University Business School. Now it's called Bayes Business School. I enjoyed and I really learned the art of networking from him. A Greek gentleman has been in this business of teaching and running the course for years now, or decades now. He remembers everybody. He talks to everybody in such a warm way, directly connects with people. Such a huge learning from him as such. Then I came and down to Dubai with my brother Amit, and I would say the main thing I learned from him was the ability to work very hard. I've never seen a person dedicate himself so much to a specific task or a specific area of the business that he wanted to develop. He was simply relentless in terms of how his plan had to be put into action. So very, very important in terms of focus and hard work. Then I came on to a shipbroking company where I had a boss called Henry Mitten Mills, who's basically still around as a mentor for me. Obviously, a very, very important person in terms of having seen the world. having seen the shipping industry, gave me the understanding of work-life balance. He says, you must also enjoy life at the same time. We are giving you a salary. Please make sure that you spend it and also use it in enjoying yourself. And that was something that was not told to me by a boss ever. Then I went on to Noble with Harry Banga and the team. Again, very much of a genius in terms of thinking and thinking out of the box. We fixed a Pakistan steel contract during that time, and it was during 9/11 that we had to execute it. World Trade Center bombing had happened. Pakistan had become a war zone. But Harry was like, this is going to be an opportunity. We need to find a way around it. He sat down with Pakistan Steel. He sat down with insurers. He sat down with ship owners, figured out a way of managing the way to manage that contract and still get value out of it. And again, hats off to the way he works even today at this age in Caravelle. And then I went on to Clavenes. Obviously, Clavenes had multiple colleagues running a family company. Mr. Clavenes kind of showed the way why values are important in the business, how values are actually translated into the business. My bosses, Niels Josephson, who was basically now the CEO of Lauritsen afterwards, and now he's retired. But all of them taught me something as I went along. I had a senior judge, a Supreme Court judge in SCMA, Singapore Chamber of Maritime Arbitration, as my chair, Justice Chow Hik-tin. Again, you can see that at that age, after retiring as well as a judge, he had so much clarity of thought. He could distill things so easily and quickly, and even get very complicated topics as well. And the last person I would like to really look up to, and I always look up to, is my uncle, Mr. Mukesh Oza. One of the persons who actually believes that there is no such thing as an impossible task. Secondly, everybody is a friend. The only thing that changes effectively is that circumstances change. So the need for that particular person to interact with you changes. But the fact is, he still remains a close person that you interact with, depending on his requirements and whatever needs to be done. And not burning bridges is something that I've learned from him in a big way. So lots of learnings. All my journeys and career progressions have been because of people, mentors, and individuals who have shaped my personality, starting from my parents all the way down to these people that I just mentioned.
Truly said, sir. I mean, there are many people in everyone's life, who, come across as mentors or inspirations. So that's very genuine what you said. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks.
So Maritime Next seems a very interesting initiative to me. So I would like to focus on that. What inspired you to start Maritime Next, and what is the main vision behind it that you want to achieve?
So the vision is very simple. I think I and my family as a whole has got everything that we have because of the maritime industry. And the vision for Maritime NXT is very simple. When we set it up 2 years ago, it was simply to contribute and give back to this amazing industry by focusing on what I call the three T's. Here in the Singapore Management University, they have the three T's to guide them. And I also have the same three T's to guide me: talent, trust, and technology. So basically, when you drive the next in shipping, when you drive the next in maritime, you automatically focus and nurture the three T's. So in case of Maritime NXT, the three T's, the first T, talent, is through mentoring the young generation, scholarships that are being offered by the family, guidance which is being given to startups as well as next generation, and of course the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, where I'm involved now in trying to create a better framework for guiding the entire industry in terms of nurturing talent and a lifelong learning mindset. When it comes to the second T, the trust, again, I have the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers. We are also thought leaders. That creates a degree of trust, which we have. Over and above that, I take up and the company takes up some company workshops on geostrategic aspects, which I teach. And I use that a lot in terms of giving it to the industry. Plus, I do some projects, some advisory work. So that builds up the trust part. But most interestingly, the technology part is very interesting. I've been involved in digital transformation of Clavenes Dry Bulk, and I feel that the SMEs here in Singapore are not really able to get the access to digital transformation because the big consultants are very expensive. So we actually run digital transformation workshops with Maritime and Port Authority here in Singapore for SMEs. I invest and mentor startups. They are a huge technology boost for me, and I embrace technology in all that I do. Whether I teach, whether I mentor, whether I share, I use technology in everything that I do and Maritime NXT does. So it's really the three T's that drive me every single day and wake me up and focus me to do more, to give back to the industry.
Great.
Really.
So I think that's a very great initiative and a good way to giving back to the industry that has given you so much. Great. Thank you so much for sharing, sir.
Absolutely.
So after spending decades in commercial roles at leading shipping companies, you have now transitioned into this teaching, mentoring, consulting thing. So how has this shift been for you personally, and what new perspectives has it given to you on on the industry as compared to your earlier corporate journey?
Absolutely. I think this transition has been very deliberate in my case. I did not see it growing to this extent. Now I teach this course on geopolitical risks and impact on trade flows in 15 business schools around the world. I didn't really expect this kind of reach or width to happen. Again, it's a blessing to actually have that. But teaching has been a passion since very early days. I don't know whether you remember, whether you ever went through, in school you have Teachers' Day in which children used to get the chance to become
Yes.
teachers for one day. And I was basically always the economics teacher. I used to make sure that I take that slot, and I used to love that one day when I could teach the class in some way, some interesting
Yes.
ideas. Um, the key thing for me is that the the fact that you're willing to teach automatically imbibes into it the willingness to learn, because unless you're willing to
You
learn, you
can't
can't
teach. Yeah.
teach. And that is something which has been the biggest experience that I've gained, that the more I teach, the more I learn all the time. I mean, geopolitical risks and impact on shipping, which is most of the teaching that I do in these universities, is a dynamic topic. It is changing all the time. Every time Trump wakes up in the morning and puts out a Truth Social post, it changes perspectives, it changes ideas. I have to keep myself up to date, but more importantly, when I share it with students and they give me perspectives back or they give me feedback and comments, it enhances my own learning skills. My own learning becomes richer. And that is something which is why teaching becomes very important. I am running a show on my own. Maritime NXT is my own company. If I did not have teaching as the foundation, I don't think I would be having the motivation to get up in the morning and catch up on what's going on, because I know that I have to teach somebody, I must learn and I must keep myself updated. So that gives me the push, I would say, to motivation to do it all the time. Mentoring, on the other hand, is a two-way process. It's the same thing like teaching, it's a two-way process. But it's slightly different because most of the time I'm not kind of learning things to teach. I'm just sharing my own knowledge and experience. One of the best quotations I remember getting from one of my mentors was that experience is the knowledge that you get just after you needed it. When you needed it, you didn't have the knowledge. So you had an experience, you got the knowledge. Now you share it with somebody at the time when the person needs it or before the person needs it, then your job as a mentor is done. That's exactly what it is. You're not trying to give any rocket science or any massive concepts to them or any new ideas. You're just sharing that we have been through this situation. Please watch out for this, and that's exactly what it is. Been there, done that. And also it creates the idea that mentorship allows people to get more curious. When people are with a mentor, they ask questions. When they ask questions, they become more curious. And today, if you look at AI and chat GPT and all these things, it's all about prompt engineering. It's about asking the right questions and not about the answers. The answers are stored somewhere anyway. They are also stored inside the mentor, by the way. But somebody has to ask the questions in order to get the answers out from the mentor. So this mentoring is very much an AI kind of a simile situation, which I have enjoyed and I still continue to enjoy tremendously, because every mentee is different, and obviously the experience is very satisfying. And to see the person gain from that knowledge and eventually use it in the job is the best thing that can happen to a mentor. to see the mentees grow even higher and more progressive than even what we are. That's the way the Guru Sishya Parampara works in the Hindu culture also, or the Indian culture also. The Guru always wants the Shishya to go beyond the Guru's prowess or personality. He needs to go well beyond, and that makes Guru the happiest. So that's effectively that. And the consulting part, I just would like to say that consulting is basically something which is again sharing and vaulting the knowledge, giving it to the industry. It's not my knowledge, Khyati. Most of the knowledge is actually acquired from experiences. Like I mentioned, all those people in the beginning, they've all given me knowledge, and I've added a bit of few pieces of my own, and their entire custodian knowledge, which is sitting with me in a treasure trove of a jug inside me. I need to pour it into the industry as much as I can, and that's where consulting makes a big difference. So I look at this from a perspective of teaching, mentoring, and consulting are basically something which is one of the best ways to keep yourself updated, but also important to give back and vault the knowledge that I've got from so many people, which otherwise would simply vanish away when I go away. And that's what I'm trying to make sure that it remains with the industry and goes further and further.
Thank you so much, sir. I think that's a very good and a genuine way to give back to the industry, as I said before. I mean, everybody does not come with this acumen of, you know, making the young talent more efficient, or, I don't know what word to use, but good luck to you for the future endeavors, whatever you come into. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
So I've heard that you also host a podcast, I think, yeah. So and
Yes,
within
I do.
which you have been simplifying complex topics like geopolitics, you mentioned like many times, for the maritime community. So since geopolitics has such a direct influence on global trade and shipping, whether through conflicts, sanctions, or shifting trade routes, what are some of the major geopolitical trends you believe will shape the future of shipping industry? And how important is it for industry professionals also to stay tuned into this side of the business?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for asking that, because I think geopolitics is something which is all around us, but at the same time, not on the top of the agenda. I mean, there are operational challenges on the top of the agenda, decarbonization issues on the agenda. Geopolitics is kind of in the mix, but it's not really on the top. I do the podcast, and I've done it for the last couple of years with Sea Trade Maritime. I chat on geopolitics and trade, where I interview the stakeholders and all the stakeholders, insurance, contract, legal, including ship owners, cargo owners, tech companies. It's very interesting because I get perspectives which I use for my students and for the industry as well. The main reason why people don't put geopolitics on top of the agenda is because it has a misplaced belief that geopolitical risks are too big and too complex and beyond our control. This makes most of us reactive rather than proactive. This has to change. This idea that it's going to be something which Mr. Trump is doing sitting in US and it's not going to really hit my business till a much later stage is just a misplaced belief. And the fact that I can't do anything about Mr. Trump doing this. Yes, you can't do anything about Mr. Trump doing it, but you are going to see the intended consequences of that and potential consequences of that, and try and basically work around potential opportunities or risk management areas. So all geopolitical risks which are affecting shipping can be divided into six clear categories. One is what is happening with the US and recent situations, trade barriers and free trade agreements. They are two sides of the same coin. Trade barriers are something that stop the trade or disrupt the trade. Free trade agreements actually help the trade. Second category is critical pathways, which includes wars and piracies and climate change, which is opening up the Arctic route, for example. Critical pathways are very important in terms of changing trade flows constantly. Demographic changes are constantly changing. The population is becoming a big issue. Mr. Modi in Japan and China was talking about the fact that we not only have democracy power behind us, but we have the demographic dividend also with us. That is the power of consumption, which is going to change people's trade patterns going forward. Economic dominance of China and impact of BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, is another fact which needs to be highlighted from a geopolitical perspective. The new alliances, whether it's the BRICS alliance or whether it is the RCEP and the others, which are obviously changing the way trade flows. And finally,
Thanks.
how technology is changing. Just the fact that electric cars require a different type of battery, they require a different type of raw material for producing that battery, which is lithium, and then obviously that has created new trades altogether. So if you look at some examples here, the announcement by Donald Trump saying that the Coca-Cola is going to start using in US only cane sugar for Coke in future has huge implications not only for the sugar market, because US will have to import a lot more sugar, raw sugar, to produce that kind of concentrate on the Coke side, but also importantly, currently it's using high fructose corn syrup. There is going to be less demand for corn then. So what is corn going to do? The corn is going to come out either as ethanol or it's going to come out as pure corn trade going to other parts of the world. So suddenly two trades are impacted by just one announcement, which is corn trade and sugar trade. And then of course there is a knock-on impact on everything else that happens around it. The question is, where is this going to come from? Where is all these going to come from? Where is the sourcing of this corn, the sugar going to be from? Where is the supply of the corn going to eventually go? So many areas. The urbanization of tier 2 cities in India. You have been in India for a while. I've grown up in India. I've seen cities metamorphosize into big, huge metropolises. How is the consumption pattern changing because of that? And how is technology helping them consume much faster than before? All these factor takes a big aspect of geopolitics and how trade and shipping gets impacted. I'm not an academic by any stretch of imagination. I do teach this, but obviously my course and my teaching is mostly very practical, talks about an actionable framework, and talks about both dangers of geopolitical risks and opportunities of geopolitical risks that companies can look at. So I think it's a fascinating topic, and I hope every company and every employee tries to pay attention to this. I use my own social media vehicles to try and highlight this from time to time, but I'm sure that more people will get more knowledge as they try and dig in. Curiosity, that's the most important thing. Keep asking questions and keep analyzing these news as much as you can. Yeah, that's all I can
So
say.
thank you so much for sharing this. So, as you shared, you give guest lectures and actively share your knowledge with the next generation of maritime professionals. So, in your view, what are the most important skills or mindsets young talent should develop in order to thrive in this shipping industry, which is a very dynamic industry?
Absolutely. I think the again the repeat the same thing. The curiosity part is very important. I tell my students that you ask a question, you get a 50% chance that you have a right answer and 50% chance you get a wrong answer. You don't ask a question, 100% chance of a wrong answer. So there is no way that you can actually avoid asking questions. Receptivity is another thing which is very much important. you know this is again coming from the Indian concept, the culture that I've born and brought up in. Something that Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans told about, that the winds of God's grace are blowing constantly. It's up to you to raise the sail. It's exactly the same thing with the winds of knowledge as well. The knowledge winds are constantly blowing. The younger generation needs to constantly raise the sail in order for the boat of knowledge to move forward. And that is simply the concept of receptivity. You must be open to ideas, must be open to the fact that things are changing and you want to learn it. Lifelong learning is a part of that receptivity. And then, of course, you have hard work and honesty. These two skills will hold you onto the right path, will make sure your progress is sustainable. AI or no AI, I mean, you will need to put in hard work. There's no two ways about it. I always say that AI will not take your job, but the person who knows AI, has learned AI, will take your job. So honesty is something which keeps you focused in a world full of distractions. And also remember, this particular industry, the reputation follows your entire life. It's a big industry, but it's a small industry. Everybody more or less knows everybody. If you look at all the major guests that you had on your podcast, nearly every one of us knows each other through some connections or the other. But if I've seen enough instances where you are dishonesty, if you're dishonest, it pays in short term, but in long term, it finishes you off. The logic is very simple, Khyati. You may be transactionally useful to someone who has use for your dishonesty at a time, but he or she will not trust you ever in future, as you may actually turn that same dishonesty against that same person who's employing you. You always lose out being dishonest. So honesty is something which is super important. These are practical life values, and shipping is a life industry. So you have to basically enhance the life values if you want to remain in the industry. So that's my two bits for the younger generation. Learn. There are so many distractions. They have much more than I had. They need to be very focused. They need to be very hardworking, honest, and of course, curious and deceptive. Yeah.
Yeah, well said, sir. Curious, being curious is very important and at the same time deceptive also. Even I have learned this thing. So thank you so much for sharing this here. And as we near the end of our episode, just one last final question for you, sir. You've had such a remarkable journey and continue to contribute so much to Maritime NXT, your podcast, and your mentoring and teaching skills. If you had to sum up your vision for the future of the maritime industry and the legacy you would like to leave behind, what would that be?
I think if I can actually influence people to join the industry and the current set of people to become brand ambassadors for the positive aspects of the industry, that would be probably my biggest contribution if I can make it and if God wills it. Because the way I see it is that the industry does so many good things. We are basically transporting more than 80% of global goods, and we are only emitting 3 to 4% of global emissions. Any other industry would get claps and applauding and pat on the back saying, well done, good job. But we are actually being facing this idea that we are polluting the world. And of course, we want to decarbonize, we will decarbonize. But the fact is that we are the most environmentally efficient way to transport anything in the world today. Nobody can do it better than shipping industry, right? The other thing which I would like to also emphasize is that during the COVID, nothing was working. It was only the ships that were working, and the ships were actually doing a tireless job. Seafarers were there, hats off to them. 2 years running, they were sitting on a ship, having seriously challenging conditions. They could not come on shore. They could not go to the port, and they were struggling, but they were managing to keep the show going. And I think that is where the industry, because of its fragmentation, has not been able to come together and really push for the positive aspects. The last part I feel is that the shipping was not having this negative reputation because most of the media is mostly negative. But that's not shipping alone. Media loves to cover negative items anyway. They mostly come out with all the negative news because they sell more than the positive news does. But in general, shipping has always enjoyed a positive reputation. And I'll give you an idea that even in the old civilizations, all the ancient civilizations came around a river. And the river was there for three reasons. One is because you needed water to survive, you needed water to grow crops, and you needed water to trade, build ships, and move and sell those crops and other things around the world. That way, shipping has always been an integral part of any society and civilization from day one. And that is why, if you look at the English language, when it was basically created, the words were created to denote positive aspects of the language. The word ship was added behind every single positive aspect: leadership, friendship, sponsorship. The reason is because ship was always considered a thing that sees through rough waves, tough times, tough river conditions, and eventually gets to the destination and delivers. This is the kind of positivity that the shipping has always had, but we have lost that plot somewhere in the last 5 decades, I would say. We need to change that. We need to change that. And how can we change it? By basically being proud of what we do and sharing this pride with other people who are common people regularly impacted by the business. The people who are getting their stuff in the supermarkets are all should be thankful for shipping, but we should highlight it to them saying that, do you know how your stuff comes to these supermarkets? Who brings it? Maybe some stuff comes by aeroplanes, but a lot of it comes by ships. And everything around in the room that you are sitting in is also probably brought by a ship somewhere, unless it's domestically produced. So this is the kind of thing that I think if I can actually bring that awareness, not only among the younger generation, but the current set of maritime professionals, and make them more proud of what we do. And I think the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers is a great platform that I've been blessed with. So I want to try and do more on that, and hopefully continue to serve with teaching, mentoring, and consulting as I go along as well.
Thank you so much, sir. I mean, such a huge and deep perspective you have just shared, and especially the one that word ship was added before all the important words, leadership and like that. Indeed, a very deep and very new perspective for me. Thank you so much for sharing, and I wish you all the very best. I really wish your vision, whatever you have thought of, do materialize. So, Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing. And with
Thank you.
this, we end our today's episode. It's been an absolute pleasure, sir, to have you on board with me today, and we discussed many things, your perspectives on geopolitics, digital transformation, and most importantly, your commitment to nurturing the next generation in shipping. So, thank you so much for sharing your perspectives and insights for all those. And I'm sure our listeners have taken away not just valuable insights, but also inspiration from your experience and vision. Thank you so much once again for giving us time to host you. I hope you had a great time, just like me, learning all those new insights and perspectives from you.
I did. Thank you so very much. Thanks for allowing me to share, and I wish you all the very best. The good part is that I'm not sure how many listeners and viewers know that your name itself means fame. So fame is something that you are born with. So good luck and
Thank
all
you
the
so
very
much, sir.
best.
Thank you,
Yep.
means a lot. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Monday Shots. Do not forget to like and leave a review for us. And do follow the podcast for more such conversations with leaders who are shaping the maritime world. Until next time, this is Khyati signing off. Stay curious, stay inspired, and see you in the next episode. Thank you.